There's a lot of conjecture. This is the lying season. There's a lot of bogus reports out there. And that being said, I mean, like there's like 9 different mocks I could point to that have 9 different prospects coming to the 49ers at 11. It's really wide open. And you're like, well, is anybody sourced? Does anybody really know what they're talking about? Well, Tony Pauline is, and he's been right in the past. And he went on a podcast earlier this week and said the people that he's talked to, the names that he's hearing around 11 are Shamar Stewart and Walter Nolan, and that it will be one of those 2 guys most likely at 11. His other wisdom was that the Niners like Dorian Strong, who's a big kind of press corner who doesn't run great, but he's got a big body, from Vatek on day 2, as well as Olufemi Oladejo on day 2. Whether they can find those guys in the draft and get the right picks and land them, we'll see. But he says they like those 2 guys. But if it came down to Shamar Stewart, Walter Nolan,
without question,
how do you feel about those 2 guys?
I think I am not a fan of Shamar Stewart at all. I think he's an incredible athlete. I think he's got power. I don't think he really knows how to play the position. He goes in blind, and it's like a guy that's that powerful. You would think he'd be a really consistent run defender. I don't see that. I see him going blind. I think he's a guy that, if you're a tackle, you can almost invite him in and take him completely out of the play by just allowing him to try and bull you without keeping his eyes up. And listen, like I am generally pro power over tact and speed. Like I would much rather a guy have a base as a power rusher than I would as a speed rusher. But you need to have some sort of other option. And Stewart sometimes tries speed and bend, but it's not. I'm not impressed by it. So if they were going to choose between those 2 guys, without question in my mind, it would have to be Walter Nolan, because I just don't think Shamar Stewart is a player. Regardless of the testing, you watch the tape, I'm not impressed by it at all. I don't even think he was the best defensive end at Texas A&M. I like Nick Scourton over him. So I know that might be a hot take, but that's where I'm at with it.
I mean, all the people from Mobile, the consensus opinion was this was the best guy on the field, and he only practiced 2 days and then shut it down. So I mean, that's the kind of behavior that somebody legitimately believes that he showed enough, or that he's, I don't know. I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's the ultimate traits versus production. And I'm normally on the production side for sure. But I'll say this: I don't fear Shamar Stewart at all.
No.
Because Shamar Stewart, I've watched him every Saturday because I'm an A&M fan. So I've watched this guy. It's like this guy is as physically gifted as anybody, and he plays harder than everybody. And it's just a matter of they've played him in different spots that aren't necessarily pass rush spots. They've played him inside at times, that he's not necessarily always on the edge. He's also played on a line with other really good players. He's also plays on a team where it's kind of like that's kind of known. It's like everybody knows, A&M's got a good D line. So the quarterbacks against them just get the ball out, and he just didn't have tons of sack opportunities. But there's no doubt a couple things are true. This guy is talented as almost anybody, and this guy plays harder than almost everybody. So I know what you're saying. I totally know what you're saying. I mean, the production isn't there. He's got 1.5 sacks.
It's not even production, because I can excuse lack of production. Again, we totally disagree on Mykel Williams, and we'll talk about that. But like the tape, like I gotta see the ability, the understanding of how to play the position, and I just don't see it.
Yeah, I see a guy who's so overwhelming as a size speed guy that he's absolutely going to be really good. I just think that, you're talking about a guy who the 49ers are bad against the run, and this guy's great against the run.
Interesting. But you don't like Mykel.
No, I don't like Mykel because
but he's better against the run than Stewart is.
Well, I mean, he's not as big, and he didn't play nearly the same kind of snaps. I mean, Mikael Williams only played. I mean, it's in the draft guide. It's in the Brugler draft guide. He didn't play. He only played he played in a rotation. So it's just it
Yeah,
didn't he didn't.
he was also playing on an ankle that was destroyed all season long. But yeah, he was playing a
But
rotation. Georgia does that.
but then here's the other thing. There's nothing there on this prospect because when you go and look at it closely, he's not the traits aren't there.
Oh,
Like
that's not true at all. That's not
he
true.
looks like the player. He looks like a player. I mean, I'll read you. I'll tell you exactly what Brugler has to say
Go
about
for it.
him. I mean, this is to me. I mean, first of all, you're talking about a guy. This is what he says about him. It doesn't have consistent rush plan or arsenal of secondary moves. Too much wasted movements with his hands, reverts back to strength, which I totally see. I see that repeatedly. And I see that as well at times with Robert Beal, believe it or not. Gets too
Well,
upright at the
Beal's a
snap.
terrible player, but moving on.
But Beal is 6'4",
Yeah,
260 and
yeah, but
runs
Beal's not
4.48.
Beal has no technique whatsoever.
I'm just saying he's a big, strong, fast guy that doesn't produce.
He comparing him to
This guy,
Mikael
he
Williams
just gets too upright at the
disingenuous.
snap, which allows blockers to get underneath and halt him. Low end tackle production. Stats don't match traits. That's expecting. See, and this was a report that was done probably before the testing. So to say that, low end when the stats don't match the traits, but then when you go to the traits aren't there. We're going to get to that. Played in a deep rotation and averaged just 33 defensive snaps per game, 29 the year before and 27 the year before that. And that's another thing. I mean, I watch this guy. I watch George every week. I barely saw this guy ever make big time plays. Missed
That's
2 games with parts of several others because of a grade 2 high left ankle sprain.
Right.
I'm telling you, I watch Georgia every week. It was Jalen Walker and Malachi Starks. And this is basically, he says, Mikael Williams, and goes and tells the whole story, how he was born. There's no doubt this guy's an amazing athlete. He was going to go to USC and then decided to stay close to home when they fired the coach, when they fired Clay Helton. He committed to go play for Clay Helton. When they fired Helton, he said, you know what? I want to live close to home. But he finished his senior season really productive in high school. But he was a 5-star recruit. This was the number 1 recruit. This was supposed to be the guy. And I just see a guy who, I just read you some of the negatives, but then when you go to the workout numbers, 6'5", 260, 10 and a quarter inch hands. Those are great numbers. 34.5 inch arms. That's a great number. He ran 4.77. I mean, that's a really slow number for a super hyper athletic defensive end who doesn't have an awesome array of moves, and I think really relies on physical ability, beating guys with speed and or power. I mean, I see Stewart as a bigger, more powerful, and faster athlete, who also plays harder consistently. I agree with you though that Stewart has no idea. Like he's super raw. I mean, A&M's coaches did not do a good job. He has not progressed. I'll say this. I'd put this one in the hands of Chris and Robert Saleh and Chris Kasarik and just say, here are the guys, tell me what you think. And I would defer to them, but we'll see. Maybe they'll take Mikael Williams at 11 and I'll be wrong, or we'll find out. But I definitely think defensive end, like, the other thing, Matt Barrows has a great breakdown on this today. And one of the things I thought was interesting, the more I watch the defensive tackles, the more I'm like, well, I would love to get like a Nolan or a Kenneth Grant up top. But the more I watch that secondary level guys, I actually want those guys now more. Like I would rather have Aeneas Peebles and Omar Norman Lott in round 3 and use both my 3rd round picks.
I'm completely with you.
and then
Yeah.
go a different position and not necessarily go defensive tackle in round
I'm
one. I mean,
I'm totally with you, Larry. I think going edge early. By the way, Michael, it was a 4.77, but he had a 1.61 10-yard split, which is what matters at defensive line, which is 90th percentile. And again, he's 6'5", 260. He's again, I just have to say he sets the edge like nobody else. He's playing 4-eye, 3 technique on a 60% ankle. You watch him, teams are game planning for him and double teaming him like almost every snap. So anyway, moving on from that, he's an outstanding player, and we disagree, and that's fair. But he has a swipe move. I agree he needs to progress as a pass rusher, but he's going to set the edge day one, have power, and he's going to get better. And when he's going to be healthy, it's going to make a massive difference. But I do agree going defensive tackle at 11 is probably not the move. I think you can go edge if it's Walker, if it's Michael. I don't think Shamar Stewart is the right play, but I get betting on the traits. Whatever. I just don't like him as a player. But I do think a lot of the corners in like late round one, if you were to trade down, trade back up, try and get like a Trey Amos at the end of round one or something, or Maxwell Hairston, totally see that. And then I'm with you. I think there's a ton of guys in round three, Aeneas Peebles, Vernon Broughton, CJ West, just a ton of great guys with like round three value that I think you can pick up two. You can pick up two instead of, spending 11 on a guy that's, got great upside, but is actually more of a question mark than some of these guys in round three.
I don't know, man. I always like to go to the game log, and Mikael Williams had no more. He had no more than 3 tackles in every single game all year, except for UMass.
Larry, I'm talking about the tape. I'm talking about teams double teaming him every snap, and he's still closing the pocket.
But I mean, we're talking. There's how many downs there are in college football. I mean, if this guy was a monster, you don't think he would have a 10 tackle game? He's the most tackles he had in any game.
What defensive lineman's having 10 tackle games in college?
Well, I mean, this is what he had: 2, 1, 0, 3, 3, 1, 1, 5 against UMass, 1, 3. And the biggest game of the year, I was like, what did you do in the biggest game of the year, right? What was the biggest game of the year? His biggest game of the year was the Notre Dame game. 1 tackle, no sacks. I mean, I know what you're saying. He's the first guy off the bus. He looks awesome, but just remember this.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you watch the tape and he's a defensive end playing 4-eye and 3 technique and is getting double teamed and is closing the pocket and is also asked to loop around a ton.
But if you watch the tape, he had 2 games where he had 2 sacks each. Other than that, he had 1 sack in like 12 games.
He's also creating a ton of pressure. And he's also,
but this is the 11th pick in the draft.
Playing on a 60% ankle that he injured multiple times and played through, and he's still setting the edge against
the
double teams.
Okay, so
look at how teams prepare for him.
So that's Mikel. Okay, so that's Mikel. But if you go look at Shamar, this is the Brugler report on Shamar, and I totally agree with Brugler on this one. He basically says rare athletic balance and fluidity, explosive off the ball, uses long arms, natural power, able to shake free, cross chop, rangy player, smart contained player, uses wide base and body, lateral quickness, surprises pulling blockers, plays his butt off for all 4 quarters, and competes with competitive edge. Nickname is the Menace. Versatile skill set, allows him to be scheme versatile. The weakness is he's got basement level sack production. But, the thing about what he says about Shamar that I totally agree with is he says he thinks his best football is ahead, that his best football is coming. And to me, that's kind of how I kind of see Shamar as well. I know it's easy to look at him and be like, it's bad. See, he says overall, he needs to mature his rushed efficiency and finishing skills, but he has a rare combination of talent and motor to be a game wrecker against both the pass and the run. His best football is ahead of him, and I would totally agree with that.